Imagine a world of vast deserts, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the sun rises over golden sands, painting the land in hues of fire and gold. Amid these harsh landscapes, towering cities emerged. The Achaemenid Empire, the mighty Persia, rose from the dust to become a beacon of civilization. It stretched from Egypt's sands to the mountains of Afghanistan, from the lush valleys of the Indus to the shores of the Mediterranean. The largest empire the world had ever seen, a realm of countless peoples and languages. Its heart beat in cities like Pasargadae and Persepolis, where grand palaces and intricate reliefs told stories of conquest, glory, and the dreams of kings. This civilization was the vision of Cyrus the Great, a ruler famed not only for his military genius, but for his wisdom and mercy, a king who freed captives and respected the gods of all nations. He built not just with armies, but with ideas, tolerance, respect, and unity. Under his rule, people of many faiths and cultures lived side by side, bound by a common purpose. Roads became lifelines, stretching like veins across the empire, connecting distant lands and cultures, carrying news, goods, and ideas from one corner of the world to another. In the royal court, nobles and envoys from across the empire gathered, united under the King of Kings, their voices echoing in the marble halls of Persepolis. But empires like stars rise and fall. Even the brightest lights eventually fade, leaving only shadows and memories behind. The same power that unites can also destroy, for the seeds of greatness often carry the roots of ruin. For every just ruler there is a tyrant, for every act of compassion a moment of cruelty, for every act of creation an act of destruction. The balance of power is delicate, and history is shaped by those who wield it. The foundations of this empire would soon be shaken, not by invaders at the gates, but by darkness festering within its very heart. This is the story of that darkness, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the fragile bonds of family. Of two brothers, born to inherit unimaginable power, raised in the shadow of greatness, yet destined to become rivals. Of love turned to jealousy, trust to fear, and the bitter cost of ambition that can tear even the closest bonds apart. What happens when the weight of an empire becomes too much for one man to bear? When the crown becomes a burden heavier than any treasure? When fear drives a king to an act so terrible, it haunts his legacy forever, echoing through the ages as a warning to all who follow. Our story begins, as many do, with a family at the pinnacle of the world, united by blood, divided by fate, and standing on the edge of a tragedy that would change history forever. At the heart of the mighty Persian Empire stood two princes, Cambyses II and his younger brother Bardiya. Their destinies were intertwined from birth, each shaped by the legacy of their legendary father. Sons of Cyrus the Great, they grew up side by side, sharing not only tutors and lessons, but also the tranquil gardens of the royal court and the dreams that filled their childhood. Together, they learned the art of leadership, the weight of responsibility, and the allure of power. Bardiya, known as Smerdis to the Greeks, was beloved by many, handsome, charismatic, and admired for his fairness as a governor of the eastern provinces. His reputation for kindness and justice spread far beyond the palace walls. He embodied the hope of a compassionate future, carrying the spirit and ideals of Cyrus himself. To the people, Bardiya was a symbol of promise and gentle strength. Cambyses, the elder brother, was the chosen heir to the throne, a formidable commander on the battlefield, respected for his strategic mind, but also feared for his fierce temper and deep suspicion of those around him. Where Bardiya inspired love and loyalty, Cambyses inspired fear and caution. His presence commanded respect, but also kept his subjects at a distance. Their relationship was a delicate balance, brotherly affection mixed with the ever-present tension of royal rivalry. In the end, only one could rule the empire. While Cyrus lived, the rivalry between the brothers simmered quietly beneath the surface, hidden from the eyes of the court. But after his death, Cambyses ascended the throne, and Bardiya became his most powerful subject, trusted, yet always watched. In the mind of a king, a popular brother is not just family, he is a rival, a threat to the crown, and to the fragile peace of the realm. A shadow that could one day eclipse the throne itself, casting doubt and fear over the royal lineage. The seeds of tragedy were sown. quietly taking root in the cracks of ambition and mistrust. The fate of the empire would hinge on the bond and the growing rift between these two brothers as the shadow of destiny loomed ever closer. Power can build empires or corrupt souls. For Cambyses, the crown brought not peace, but paranoia. He saw enemies everywhere, especially in his brother's popularity. Every cheer for Bardiya felt like a threat. Fear twisted Cambyses' mind, fueling erratic and cruel behavior. Advisors were executed, the court silenced by terror. Isolated, Cambyses' paranoia grew unchecked. As he prepared to conquer Egypt, one fear consumed him, leaving Bardiya behind. The obsession with betrayal became all he could see, and it drove him to the unthinkable. In the palace shadows, Cambyses hatched a secret plan. Bardiya was too beloved for a public execution. His death had to be hidden. Cambyses ordered his trusted agent, Persia, to kill Bardiya in secret. The deed was done while Cambyses campaigned in Egypt. The empire was told Bardiya vanished or died of illness. But secrets this dark never stay buried. Rumors spread of a prince murdered in agony, of cruelty beyond simple death. Some whispered he was buried alive, others that he was entombed within palace walls. The methods varied, but the message was clear. The king's fear had become monstrous. Bardiya's fate became a chilling legend the empire would never forget. Imagine Bardiya's terror. Seized by his brother's agents, denied a trial, condemned in secret. Whether buried alive or walled up, his end was slow, lonely, and cruel. The weight of earth, the silence of stone, the suffocating darkness, these were his final companions. It was not just execution, but erasure. No grave to mourn, no body to honor. Cambyses wanted more than his brother's death. He wanted him forgotten. This was the act of a mind consumed by fear and cruelty. Bardiya's suffering became a symbol of the king's descent. The empire's golden prince was lost to darkness. The act would haunt Cambyses and Persia forever. In killing his brother, Cambyses destroyed a part of himself. The shadow of this crime would stretch far beyond the palace walls, and the ghost of Bardiya would not rest. Cambyses returned from Egypt victorious but hollow. The cheers of conquest faded quickly, replaced by a heavy silence that clung to the palace like a shroud. Though he wore the crown of a conqueror, his heart was troubled, and the weight of his actions followed him through every gilded doorway. The secret of Bardiya's murder weighed on him, poisoning the palace. Every shadow seemed to whisper his brother's name, and the air grew thick with suspicion and dread. The walls themselves seemed to listen, holding the memory of the crime. The official story of Bardiya's disappearance was never believed. Courtiers exchanged wary glances, and rumors crept through the marble halls like a chill wind. No proclamation could erase the doubts that festered in the hearts of those who served the king. Rumors grew, of weeping in empty corridors, of a prince's ghost haunting the halls. Some claimed to hear Bardiya's voice in the night, a mournful echo that would not be silenced. Bardiya's spirit became a symbol of the king's guilt, a haunting presence in the empire. His memory lingered, fueling unrest and fear, as if the very stones of the palace mourned his loss. Servants whispered of shadows, guards heard footsteps in sealed rooms. No one felt safe, and the sense of unease grew with each passing day. The story of the murdered prince undermined Cambyses' rule. His authority was questioned, and the loyalty of his court began to fracture. He was seen as a kinslayer, a tyrant who broke sacred bonds. The people's trust in their king was shattered, and the royal family's honor was stained. Fear and mistrust spread, creating a power vacuum. The empire's foundations trembled as old alliances faltered and new ambitions stirred in the shadows. Into this void stepped Gomata, a clever imposter. He moved quietly, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Claiming to be Bardiya, he seized the moment. His words were honeyed, his promises bold, and the people listened with desperate hope. The people, desperate for hope, were ready to believe. They longed for justice, for the return of a lost prince, and for the restoration of order. The ghost of Bardiya became a rallying cry. His name was spoken in every corner of the empire, uniting the discontented and the fearful. The empire was ripe for upheaval. Tension crackled in the air, and the threat of rebellion loomed ever closer. The stage was set for a new chapter of chaos, as the fate of Persia hung in the balance, and the whispers in the palace walls grew louder than ever. Bardiya's death did not end his story. It made him a legend. Gaumata, a Magian priest, claimed to be the lost prince and seized the throne. The empire, hungry for hope, embraced him. Rebellions erupted. Cambyses was driven to despair. His secret crime had returned to destroy him. Cambyses died on the journey home, some say by accident, others by his own hand. Gaumata ruled briefly, granting peace and tax breaks. But the truth emerged. He was an imposter. 7 nobles led by Darius exposed and killed him. Darius became king, inscribing the tale on the Behistun rock. The ghost of Bardiya was finally laid to rest. But the story of betrayal and imposture was now carved in stone. The legacy of the brothers' tragedy would shape Persia forever. What drives a man to murder his own brother? Was Cambyses a cold strategist, a paranoid mind unraveling, or simply cruel? Perhaps it was all three: ambition, fear, and darkness combined. Power gave him motive, paranoia gave him justification, and cruelty gave him means. Cambyses was haunted by his father's legacy and his brother's popularity. In killing Bardiya, he became a prisoner of his own mind. The throne did not bring him peace, only deeper torment. The tragedy of Cambyses is the tragedy of unchecked power and fear. The story of Cambyses and Bardiya is a timeless warning. It shows how power, jealousy, and fear can destroy even the strongest bonds. The murder ended the line of Cyrus the Great, and Darius's dynasty rose on its ruins. The tale, carved in stone, reminds us of the fragility of power and the darkness within. Even today, it echoes in our stories of ambition, betrayal, and haunted legacies. The empire crumbled, but the story endures. You can kill a man, but not the memory of injustice. That ghost still whispers from the ancient world, warning us of the darkness in the human heart.